This is not what Canucks fans want to hear, as a devastating blow has been dealt to Thatcher Demko's planned bounce-back season, with Elliotte Friedman's insight hopefully providing some comfort for fans. But first, the Canucks drop another tough game on a day that couldn't get any worse. We're going to break down all that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first, if you're not a part of the 41% of viewers who are already subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all things Canucks, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates when they drop. And with that, let's hop straight in the first topic of the day, which is that the Canucks drop another one. So, as we saw tonight, the Vancouver Canucks did fall victim to the Carolina Hurricanes, suffering a 4-3 overtime loss. At least we came away with a point, but we did ultimately not get the job done, where it was a really tough battle for Vancouver as they could not get very much offense going whatsoever in this game. When we're looking at the scorers for this game, Max Sasson got the scoring started, and then Andrei Svechnikov got just absolutely busy with, he rattled off 2 goals in the first period as well to get them back very early as well, where as soon as you go step away to the bathroom for 2 seconds, you come back and the game is already, Carolina's already scored 2 goals. Wasn't really opportune for Vancouver, but they were able to respond fast with Elias Pettersson getting that shorthanded goal, so that was really nice to see him get back in the point column. Then Conor Garland getting the power play goal in the second period. At least we got the power play going a little bit more now. All right, we're looking okay. Then Taylor Hall and Sebastian Aho just put things away, where Taylor Hall got that quick third period goal as well, and then Sebastian Aho just buries it home with not much time left in overtime. Looking at the overall game stats, the thing that is going to jump out, of course, is how much that shots on goal tips in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes. This was a big thing for Vancouver, where they could not get any offense really going. Carolina has always usually had a pretty good defensive game plan when it comes to things like this. However, Vancouver, you just need to be able to get the job done, where as far as if you're not getting many shots on net, you're probably not going to score many goals. But in those cases, you have to make the most of those chances. They did make a decent amount of those chances, but they just didn't get very many of them. In the faceoff circle, splitting it 50-50. You do want to see Vancouver win those faceoff battles, obviously, but at least this was better than they have been doing in the past, but still was very desperate as far as putting Elias Pettersson out there in certain situations when you shouldn't have been relying on him to be your faceoff guy. But he still was pretty solid in the faceoff circle, but there was still a lot of things to clean up. Penalty minutes, they kept it pretty clean. Hits, they still were getting the edge on the hits. Lots of block shots. I think that's the biggest thing, where as much as we all want to dog on Elias Pettersson, he's been doing a great job this season from a defensive standpoint at just blocking shots. Yeah, he's not firing off as many shots as he should be, as much as he's blocking them, but he still is keeping us in games late for those reasons as well, where the opposing team isn't able to get a quick shot chance, where he's just able to jump in front of the puck. Then, of course, the giveaways, that was a big thing for Vancouver tonight as well. But then the takeaways, they were able to kind of even things out in that sense. But still, overall, you want to see Vancouver get a little bit hungrier after it. And that's where Rick Dhaliwal kind of took his frustrations to Twitter, saying that Elias Pettersson took 13 defensive zone faceoffs tonight. Now you know why the Canucks are after UFA center David Kampf, and the Canucks are in the mix to land Kampf. So more on the video on that you guys should be expecting coming soon as far as what he could bring to the table for Vancouver. But like I was saying earlier, where Elias Pettersson took so many defensive zone faceoffs where he wasn't necessarily in a position where he should have been taking those faceoffs. And honestly, I would have rather have seen somebody else probably take it in that scenario. But still, Elias Pettersson doing decent in the faceoff, but you need to have somebody else there where they can be a bit more reliable and just trying to get you guys more of the edge and having a bigger body on the dot, where Vancouver, they need a lot of help on the dot. I know Braden Shen's a name that's been thrown out there, where I know a lot of people are saying stay away from him because of the age, the contract, and the production drop off. But as far as the faceoff dot, they need a guy like that. Maybe he's a better alternative than Kampf would be, but still the jury is out as far as what Vancouver is going to do to fix that spot at the center position. They need something there. I know injuries are a big thing right now, when yes, in retrospect, Mark and I were talking about this earlier. He brought up a really good point that with all things considered, with all the injuries Vancouver has, they're still right now 1 point, probably now it's still 1 point out of a wild card spot, so they can still kind of keep fighting their way through as they get healthier and healthier. That might be the optimistic side of looking at things. On as far as I'm concerned, I know Vancouver hasn't looked, even when they're as close to healthy as they can be, they haven't looked like a playoff team. But once we see this Vancouver team fully healthy, hopefully within the next couple of weeks or couple of months, we will start to see this team start to kind of look like what we wanted them to look like, or what we have been expecting them to look like, or just finally see what the identity of this team is once this team gets fully healthy, and that's when you can really have a really good critical assessment as far as what this season is going to bring for the Vancouver Canucks. But let us know your guys' thoughts on the game. And one thing before we move on as well, I know you guys probably thought I was going to forget about this, but Filip Hronek, as we were recording this video, there was an update that he was pulled from the game because of the concussion spotter on a terrible hit that I guarantee you that the league is going to do nothing about, because once again, it's open season for the Vancouver Canucks players as far as teams just headhunting and trying to give as many concussions as they can to our best players. Filip Hronek was another victim of that this season, as he was last season. Filip Hronek is now a victim of the concussion bug. And yes, we are probably not going to see any disciplinary action dealt out on the Carolina Hurricanes because the Vancouver Canucks are just hated by Gary Bettman in the NHL, and they want to see us suffer and see our players just get injured. And as far as I'm concerned, you guys know my belief on this. If you knock a player out and you with an injury, however many games that player is out for, you're suspended for that many games plus one more. I think that is absolutely fair. An eye for an eye in that sense, and plus one I think is absolutely fair if you're the guy that dealt out that dirty hit or just pulled off a slash or a dirty move and was justifiably suspended for that. However long that guy is injured for. If a guy is injured for the rest of the season, sorry, bye-bye, pal. Get rid of him. Because that shouldn't be happening. If I know we don't usually see many contact injuries happen like that, where a guy gets knocked out for the entire season on a dirty hit. But if a guy is even knocked out for 3 weeks or has to go on the IR, that is a scenario where that player should absolutely be suspended for that many games. But let us know if you guys agree on that or not, and if you think there is going to be disciplinary action handed out on the Carolina Hurricanes part for that dirty hit on Hronek. But speaking of IR and injuries, that is going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is the Demko Devastation. So earlier today, it was announced that that Vancouver Canucks are going to be placing Thatcher Demko on IR as per the NHL media site, and it was announced that it's going to be a lower body injury. So this is obviously huge for Vancouver, as they will not have their Vezina caliber goalie between the pipes for at least a couple of weeks. This is going to suck for Vancouver because obviously Kevin Lankinen cannot be expected to play so many games. And I just want to say this is a situation where maybe Artur Shilovs could have been helpful here. I know we got Elias Pettersson in that trade, and that has been working out very nicely. He filled in really nicely tonight without Quinn Hughes in the lineup. But still, in a situation like this where you're having to basically rely on Abbotsford guys to be your backup goaltender for the next couple of weeks, that's not a position you want to be in as for Vancouver. I know with Shilovs, they would have had to pay him more than they was worth as far as what his role would have been as that emergency third goaltender and playing in Abbotsford again when he is an NHL caliber goalie. I know that is something that Vancouver just did not want to put themselves in that situation, nor putting Shilovs in that situation. It just would not have benefited him and his growth, but it would have helped Vancouver in the situation that they are currently in now. But they wouldn't have had Elias Pettersson, so that's kind of a lose-lose situation, or however you want to look at that. It's kind of a catch-22. But not having a guy like that between the pipes and having to rely on Kevin Lankinen is going to put a lot of wear and tear on Lankinen for this season. And that's where I find a lot of concern in that, is you're going to put him in a situation where it was like Demko a couple years ago, where Demko was being relied on so much and playing 60 games a season, where I know you want to see a 1A goalie play that much when they're getting paid like that. But that's also when they didn't have a lot of very much faith in Casey DeSmith as a backup goaltender, where when last year when they had Shilovs, they had that security blanket. Kevin Lankinen this year, they have that security blanket. But if that security blanket gets overworked and you're having to go to that third string goalie, that's where things get a little bit hairy. But Elliotte Friedman, of all people, was there to the rescue today on 32 Thoughts, saying that they talked about how he was sore last week and whatever's bothering him now has got nothing to do with what happened last week. You just wonder with all his injuries if it's all somehow interconnected, and he said that he's not a medical professional. He shouldn't be anywhere near a medical facility. However, with all of these things just being mysterious lower body injuries, it does make you wonder, are these all kind of the same injury just at different spots on the lower body, or is this just all one massive injury that the Canucks are trying to cover up? He says, I think Demko is doing everything he can to play. I heard he was really down about this one because he really wants to be in the battle. He knows and thinks he's a difference maker. And there's been so many things we've heard about him, and then the timeline, and it's off or something pops up. Best thing that you can do is wait. What I go by is the concern meter. The concern meter, as I sense it, is not off the charts here. So until that happens, I don't freak out, but I don't believe in a timeline. And this is very fair as far as what tracks with Thatcher Demko's injury history. When we've had timelines given to us on Thatcher Demko, how many times have we seen it be actually accurate? The only time that I ever trust an injury update on when Thatcher Demko is coming back is the day of game day when they announce that he is back in the lineup. If it's the day before and they say, oh yeah, we expect him to play, I still don't trust it. I don't trust that Thatcher Demko is coming back from an injury until the day of game day and they say he is playing today and I see him on that opening ice for warmups. Even then, it can be a bit of a toss in the air where he could come out after warmups and tweak something. It's something that has always been a concern with Thatcher Demko, and it kind of makes me wonder if the Canucks I don't know. I feel like they kind of just jumped the gun on that extension sometimes because of Demko's injury history. I feel like if you had traded him, maybe, I know he was a Vezina nominee 2 years ago, and it's very, very, very hard to justify trading a Vezina nominee goalie the season after he has been nominated for it. But with his injury history, it feels like if the Canucks had done that then, they would have gotten so much more for him than they would get now if they try to trade for him, or when the contract is coming up and trying to get rid of it before losing him for nothing. That is something where they probably lost their window of getting the maximum return for Thatcher Demko in a trade. I'm not saying they should trade Thatcher Demko. I'm just saying that if they were looking to get a return for him, that window has fully closed as far as the best return that you could get for it. But you need this guy in net, and at least this is some things where, hey, what Elliotte's hearing is that it's not worth being overly concerned about. But in the case of Thatcher Demko and the Vancouver Canucks, we have seen things change on a dime where it goes from, okay, he's going to be back in 2 weeks. Oh, nope, sorry, it's 2 months from now. We kind of lied there, or we were wrong, and things like that. Or, yeah, he's playing tomorrow. Oh, he tweaked something in practice or in warmups. Damn it, he can't play now. There's been so many things with Thatcher Demko where it's hard to trust what injury report you get about him, whether it's from the horse's mouth at the Vancouver Canucks from Patrik Allvin, Jim Rutherford, or Adam Foote, or from an insider well-connected like Elliotte Friedman. It is going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out, but let us know what you guys think it is down in the comments below. Do you think this is all just one big injury that's kind of interlinked, or do you think that this is all just kind of separate lower body injuries and his lower body is just riddled with separate injuries? Let us know down in the comments below, but that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.